Hello, my name is Keith, and this is a series of videos about healthy living. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe on my YouTube channels. They are Agency Reviews, Build Your Success, Get Healthy Now, which this one will be on, In the World, and KGH Photos and Videos. This video was created during the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, where communities competed against each other to be deemed the most fit city. And each week we included a video to provide health education during the challenge. This one is titled Healthy Wellbeing, and Angelika Keene is the presenter.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our next Mayor's Fitness Challenge education content. Today, my name is Angelika Keene, and I am going to be talking about healthy well-being, stress management, and an introduction to mindfulness. So thank you for all of those that join, and thank you for all of those that are listening to the recording. So a little bit about myself. I work for the University of Florida IFIS Extension Office as their community development agent. What that means is that it's my responsibility to provide health and wellness components and challenges at these broad community type levels. So in addition to individual education, I look at and support things like the Mayor's Fitness Challenge and how do we make everybody healthier and have opportunity. So a little bit about my background. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. So this particular topic of mindfulness and stress management is very something I'm very passionate about, and I think something that we can always improve and work upon. And over the past 15 years, I've had the opportunity to work in a variety of different health and wellness fields, from being a fitness instructor to an actual health educator working within a hospital, and to my current position as the community development agent and a longtime swim instructor, because that's just a fun hobby of mine that I enjoy. So that's a little bit about me. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. So in today's program, we're going to define for you what is healthy well-being. Sometimes people throw that term around, but we're actually going to kind of explain what they mean and how that really fits into this Mayor's Fitness Challenge program and your overall life by identifying the 8 dimensions of wellness. We're going to discuss what is stress and how it affects your body. We're going to talk about stress management topics, introducing you to mindfulness and different types of practice. And then once we have that introduction, we're going to provide you a simple example of each one of those practice areas. So real quick housekeeping, throughout this presentation, if you have any questions or comments, you can please feel free to unmute yourself and ask them. But also we have the chat, and Javon is going to be monitoring the chat. If you have anything and you don't feel comfortable speaking up, that's totally fine. You can put that in there, and then he'll be our spokesperson towards the end. So just keep that in mind, that you can always engage in this program. So let's talk a little bit about healthy well-being and what is it? So according to the dictionary, health is defined as a state of physical, mental, and social conditioning in which disease and illness is absent. So that's our health. We want to be free of disease, okay? A lot of people hear that. You hear commonly talked about. Well-being is defined as a state of being happy, healthy, and prosperous. So this concept of healthy well-being is this broad thinking that we're not just looking at, are you without illness, but your overarching life. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Do you have success, or your term of success? And they define this, experts have defined this by breaking up into 8 kind of dimensions of this wellness, well-being, and areas that you have opportunity that will affect your overall health and happiness. So you have your emotional intelligence, which is what we're specifically going to talk about today. There is also financial, social, spiritual, your occupation, which, let's face it, we all have a little work stress. Your physical, which is part of that Mayor's Fitness Challenge, getting that physical health and preventing injury and illness. Your intellectual, and then your environmental. like I said, for the purpose of today's class, we're going to specifically look under the category of emotional, and we're specifically going to address stress management in that, and this idea of mindfulness and what that really looks like and what it isn't. So what is stress? Stress, according to the Institute of Mental Health, stress is the brain and body's response to change, challenges, or demands. It's the body's natural defense against danger brought on by an event or a thought that makes us feel frustrated, angry, nervous. When stress events occur, the body is flooded with hormones to avoid or confront that danger. This is commonly referred to as the fight or flight syndrome. And if you think back to our past, our times, that when you're in a stressful situation, having things like your body respond in an ability to either fight to defend yourself or run away was extremely beneficial. Now unfortunately, we're in a state that is consistently more engaged in stress on a regular basis, because if you go back to that image we just talked about, looking at your emotional health, your physical health, your work, your environment, these are all contributing factors to your health, but unfortunately that also means they're potential contributors to the stress. And as kind of that quick defense, that is great. We want our body to continue to do that. The unfortunate thing that happens for most people is that we stay in that overly stressful state. And it becomes not just acute temporary stress, but a chronic, consistent state of mind or body response. So for example, according to a survey conducted by LinkedIn, what they found is that nearly half of all workers within the United States feel stressed. 70% actually said their workload makes them feel completely out of balance. And then 23% of those responses even went so far to say that they're on the brink of burnout. So this whole thought process of that our life in general is a consistent compiling component of stress is a very true fact for a lot of people. And that even though sometimes people do try to practice stress management and different things, what they found is that 44% of people in general feel stress at any given moment, meaning that even if you aren't, maybe you wake up and you're not stressed, you have a good morning, and then traffic hits and you start getting stressed again, which again, if it's that temporary moment, that response, that car swerves at you and you react quickly, these are the kinds of stressful moments we want you to have those reactions to, but we don't want you to maintain it throughout the rest of your day because that leads into that chronic component. So let's dive further into specifically what stress does to your body. So we talked about the acute responses. Those are, like I said, giving that analogy of you're driving on the road and somebody swerves into your lane. What happens to you physically? Have you ever noticed that? Usually you get things like shortness of breath. Your heart starts to increase. Your blood starts to pump higher. You get that adrenaline rush that sometimes people talk about. And that reaction is really good because it allows you to respond quicker to whatever that concern is, either by the fight or flight situation. So in this example of the car swerving into your lane, it's the flight, moving quickly out of the way, hopefully, so that everybody's safe and, those accidents don't happen. But unfortunately, if you don't do anything to process that emotion, that feeling, that component, and it stays with you for whatever reason, whatever that may be, you end up in a term of chronic stress. And the thing about chronic stress is if you don't think you have it, think about your lifestyle, meaning that chronic stress sneaks into our day-to-day lives, sometimes with us consciously and sometimes with us unconsciously, meaning that you toss and turn more at night. Have you ever noticed when you've had that stressful day or you haven't had the opportunity to process everything through, you have a restless sleep, okay? Sometimes you have need for extra caffeine. And yes, we all have that sometimes too. Everybody loves their 3 o'clock caffeine fix, but there's a difference between wanting it and really needing it to function, okay? And so then you get that opportunity about what about the midday snack or that sugar craving? And then so far into lifestyle choices that are kind of an unhealthy component of stress or response is into using coping strategies. And that could be junk food, okay? Food can absolutely be a coping strategy. It could be alcohol. It could be social media. It could just be getting lost in that social media, or it could be medication, okay? So these are all things that can, in short term, help you as a quick distraction. But if it's becoming a problem in your life, then that's an example of that chronic stress. And something that needs to be looked at is how these are all basically treatments for the symptom. How do we actually treat the problem? And the problem is stress. So some ways to kind of release your stress or manage your stress are get active. That's partly why I'm talking about that in this Mayor's Fitness Challenge, is that we do want you to be throughout this challenge to encourage to get up, get active, get moving. And it's a huge stress reliever. Your body physically responds with the opposite. Your heart rate starts to slow, not during, be clear, your heart rate goes up during while you're, say, running or jogging, but after your body releases endorphins, you have that positive high, that opportunity to kind of slow down, take your breaths, kind of come back to whatever your natural state is or neutral for your body. Writing things down, and we're going to get more into that when we talk a little bit about mindfulness, but connecting with friends and family. And no, I don't mean just on social media. Yes, in this COVID world, that is kind of how we're doing things right now, and that's okay. But thinking past that, just likes on a Facebook, but how do you pick up the phone? How do you have Zoom conversations so you feel like there's more of a connection in this COVID type of reality? Getting more sleep. I know that sounds counterintuitive because if you're tossing and turning, it's hard to get that sleep. However, if you can try to set that environment, turn off your phone, have some downtime. If you like decaffeinated tea or decaffeinated coffee, warm beverage, to kind of just set yourself up for that successful sleep. And then the more you get, you'll actually find the easier it is for your body to respond to those quick, stressful, acute moments that happen on a day-to-day basis. And then, of course, we have the unplug, meaning that put your device away, turn off your television, turn off all technology. It could be get out in nature, it could be read a book, it could be take a nap. It just, some time that you think about it. You recharge your phone, which means you have to plug it in and set it down. So you got to think about doing that for your body as well. And one kind of practice is this idea of this mindfulness is an opportunity to, again, manage that stress and also kind of recharge your body. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what is mindfulness and what it isn't. Okay, so mindfulness is defined as your basic ability to be fully present and aware in what you're doing. Okay, now when I say the word mindfulness, I know when I first heard it years ago, my first thought was the picture of, like, just like it showed, Lisa Simpson sitting there being all, perfectly calm, this big. That is not mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just being calm for the sake of being calm. It is not like just being like, okay, I'm going to be calm, even though you're not. It's the idea of that you're being aware of how you feel and processing those feelings. So you're not forcing this fake smile or forcing this sense of calm, but you're allowing yourself to recognize what you are feeling and acknowledge it. Okay, so with that same said, it is not just absolutely blanking out your mind. Like, everybody loves to picture that amazing guru sitting there with no thought in their head. It is not mindfulness. Mindfulness is acknowledging all those thoughts and then allowing yourself and learning from those thoughts to become aware of what is it you're holding on to? What is it you need to address, maybe learn more about, take off your plate, whatever that looks like, okay? Mindfulness is also not being complacent. So it's not just sitting around aloof, doing nothing. Like mindfulness is a state of activity. It's just a mental exercise versus a physical exercise. And mindfulness is not a silver bullet, meaning that it's not this magic coping strategy that you're just like, oh, I'm going to practice mindfulness and my world's going to get amazing and all my problems are going to be fixed. No, I wish it was. I wish I could tell you that. That's not how it works. But what mindfulness is, just like physical activity, improves your body, starts to help reduce your waistline, starts to reduce your chronic illness. Mindfulness does that, but for the emotional side of things. Mindfulness allows you to start having healthier responses to situations and repurpose or restructure those negative thoughts into positive ones and things like that. So there are a couple areas of mindfulness that kind of break down as practices, meaning that you have a physical practices. So physical practices can be things like mindful eating, mindful movement, okay, mindful sleep. That's kind of like what we talked about earlier, being aware about what your habits are before you go to sleep. You have your meditation. And again, meditation is not just simply sitting there with no thought in that head, forcing yourself into this calm state place. It is a practice of allowing yourself to feel what you need to feel. And then you have your emotional kind of practices. And your emotional practices are things like journaling. It could also be going to therapy. Sometimes that's what people need. They're at that point where they can't just simply journal down the thought, and there's nothing wrong with that. Being aware of your mental health and going to see that therapist when you need them is just as important as going to the doctor when you're having that physical concern. Nobody questions going to a doctor to get your diabetes medicine. It's no different if you're going to a doctor for your mental state, whatever that may be, depression, anxiety, it's the same thing. It is a matter of your health. Okay, so let's try to kind of reframe that stigma and move in that emotional state. So one really good resource, and it should be dropped into the chat, and I'll talk about it again at the end, but is the mindfulness.org website. And if you don't see it in the chat, we can redrop it. But it's where you'll find a lot of detailed breakdowns and further information about maybe a specific mindfulness area you want to focus on. And then also kind of how to get started or whatever that may be. So it's a really great resource for both beginners and advanced. But what we're going to do next is we're actually going to take an example of each one of these three categories and kind of walk you through what that looks like. So mindfulness movement. Mindfulness movement is the one we're going to highlight under physical, and that could be mindfully walking. That could be yoga. That could be Tai Chi, chair exercises. But the idea of this concept of mindfulness movement is being present in that movement. So when you walk outside, simply not just taking your phone and having a conversation with your friends or family. Yes, that is fantastic to reduce stress. That could be fantastic to get your steps and your minutes in. All of those things are true, but that's not mindfulness movement. Mindfulness moving is being aware. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? How does your body feel? How does the ground feel underneath you as you walk? Is it even? Is it uneven? What is it you're aware of? Okay. And how does that environment you're in also make you feel? So same thing. It can be yoga, Tai Chi, desk exercises. These are just a few examples of when mindfulness movement can be really helpful to help reduce that stress, which is kind of why we're talking about it. Okay. A meditation. So meditation, again, there's everything from like 1-minute practices to 10, 15-minute practice. Start where you're comfortable. But one really easy way to start is to start with what we call a body scan. It can be done first thing in the morning. It can be done in the evening. It can also be done in the middle of the day. So if you're at a place, I'd like to go ahead and do this with me. So if your place, it says to lie down, but I know that's not always appropriate. But if you're sitting, try to get yourself in a comfortable seated position. And what I want you to do is I want you to take a second and close your eyes and take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale, okay? Don't think about anything other than trying to think about that breath component. Your thought that I want you to focus on right now is that deep inhale and exhale. Now, what we're going to do in this body scan is that you're going to start at the top of your head and think about, how does the top of your head feel? Are you thinking lots of thoughts? Are you, feel tension? Do you have it in your neck? Are your sinuses out of whack due to allergies or different things? And it's fine if they are. It is not in this thought of trying to get rid of that, but it is acknowledging it, taking that deep inhale, and then exhale, releasing out that tension. And then we're going to move to the chest area and your stomach area. And you're going to do that same thing. You're going to take a deep breath in. How does your chest feel? How does your stomach feel? Do you have extra gas or bloating in that situation? Again, no judgment, just acknowledging, how are you feeling in this moment? What are those thoughts still running around? What are you thinking about? How are you thinking about what, when I say stomach, what you want to cook for dinner or what you haven't prepared yet? All of these are okay. The thought is to inhale them, acknowledge them, and then exhale and focus on this moment. It's not to say these things aren't important, but the idea is to release that at this moment. This is where you are and this is where you feel. You're going to do that same thing all the way down through your head, from your legs to the bottom of your toes. And again, like I said, this idea of this visualization, allowing that tension to exit that body, is what we're looking for. We're not looking to force you into a calm or different state of mind. It is just, how do I feel today? And I'm okay with that. And that's the thought. I'm okay with how I feel today. After you've done your meditation component, so if everybody would go ahead and sit back up or stand back up and open their eyes. But the idea of this is just kind of a quick example of a body scan. You can do it first thing in the morning, it's great, or first thing at night. It really helps at night. So you kind of think about where you are and relax yourself in a profound way to get that good sleep, which will reduce that stress and help you along. And again, it's not just simply blocking it out or having negative thoughts around whatever your feelings are. It is allowing you to acknowledge them, which then allows you to eventually process them and move forward. So another way, if you don't like meditation, and like I said, there's many, many other examples of meditation, whether it be an affirmation meditation, guided, self, different things, but is this concept of emotional mindfulness. And that's what we talked about earlier with this thought of, it could be journaling, it could be doodling, it could be coloring. The idea here is not to have judgment. Again, do you notice a theme in this? This idea of mindfulness isn't to judge what you have to say. It is to allow you. So the hobby, one of the reasons why I highlight this one is this as a mindfulness hobby is great because there is no really cost associated to it. So meaning that you don't need a specific journal if you want to start a gratitude journal. You do not need a specific coloring book. You do not need any of that. Yes, I love adult coloring books, but I've loved kids coloring books, so I'm glad to see adults are using them. But you don't have to go out and buy a specific type of coloring book. You can simply just grab a blank sheet of paper and take a deep breath and then write down whatever thought comes to your head. No grammar, no spelling check, no concerns, just whatever it is, let it out. Same thing with doodling. Maybe you're not a writer. Maybe you like to draw, okay? Maybe you're not an artist and you just like to scribble on a page. There's a sense of relaxation in that and being present in that moment, and that's what we're looking for, okay? And the nice thing about this is all of these practices allow this moment to be just for you. So whether you're doing it physically by movement or by taking that moment of peace and meditation, or in this emotional such as like journaling, doodling, coloring, the idea is that it's not for anybody else other than yourself. It is to allow yourself to, again, I can't say it enough, acknowledge wherever you are, what that feeling is, and then figure out eventually how to move past that feeling to eventually eliminate the actual problem, not just the symptom, but the problem of whatever is causing you this long-term stress. So again, some resources that may be really helpful as you start this like stress reduction mindfulness journey is the www.mindfulness.org website. Like I said, it really is a fantastic resource, and it breaks it down by all different. If you're stressed at work, if you're looking to have mindfulness with your kids, it really breaks it down into all of those 8 aspects we talked about earlier with that healthy well-being. If you're somebody that likes to read articles, there are 2 scientifically supported articles provided by the University of Florida that you can access and read through about coping strategies, but also kind of mental stability. And then if you really enjoyed the content that I provided you today in this like thinking of this healthy well-being, not just simply a physical challenge, but this holistic looking at your body, whether it be physically, mentally, works, environmental, social, please consider joining the Let's Walk program that we're offering. It started this week, but we're still taking registrations up until Sunday, and this is the link to participate. And in this program, we're not only going to be doing a physical challenge, kind of similar to the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, but it's really going to provide deeper education into these areas of like these other components of health and wellness. Okay, so again, if these are something you're interested in, please check them out, look at them, use them, whatever works. So I just want to say thank you for participating in this presentation and being with us today. So a quick recap. To recap, healthy well-being is this idea of that overall personal component, that it's supporting all aspects of your individual, not just simply your physical, but also emotional, intellectual, social, and etc. So thank you for joining us today.